Hi, I'm Brian,
And I'm Tom.
and we're the Dividend Dudes.
We are in our series of purchasing a stock.
Woo!
Month 5.
Month 5, baby.
Month 5. So the previous video, we talked about the first initial process. Hopefully that wasn't so cumbersome, but we talked about how we find the stocks to basically analyze them. And now we are into the analysis of the stock.
Yeah, it's how we do it, and so can you.
You can do it too if you like numbers and you like to be a nerd like me.
If you'd like to be rich like him,
Hey, actually, that's probably true.
don't kidnap his kids, please.
Don't get it. Yes. Don't. I will find you.
He's not that rich.
Hey.
He's not kidnap rich.
No, I'm not. Besides, you'd probably give them back anyways.
Yeah, nah, they're cute.
Yeah. I need more time. How about we look at the stocks?
Yes.
Let's look at stocks.
Wow,
So-
that went off the rails quick.
It did. That's funny.
Pass number 2.
Pass number 2. So we have, again, if this doesn't make any sense, the video we did just for this one covers the initial picks and the first pass. And basically what we did from the first pass, anything that got past that is now in this section. So if you're looking at that, we have a spreadsheet. I could do my Vanna White spreadsheet again. So in there, you're going to see the remaining stocks that actually look like they're somewhat healthy.
So we narrowed it from like 20 stocks down to
In this
5.
case, there's only like 5 left. So I included the ones that we own already, not because that they were super great, but because we own them.
Yeah.
It's kind of nice to know
compare.
what's happening with them. In this list, we can actually talk about the list because they're short enough. It's RIO, Chevron, Intel, Devon Energy Corp, and City Office. That's an REIT. If you're not familiar with a real estate investment trust, they are a little different. But
And that was a viewer choice.
that was a viewer choice. That was one that completely blindsided me. I own a couple of REITs, but not that one. So I looked at it, and it actually, at first glance, looked pretty good. And even in this pass, if you look at the spreadsheet, there's quite a few good things in there.
A lot of yellow.
Yeah, they have a lot of. So what we did is we highlighted out of that list, the companies that did the best on this list are highlighted. So if they had the most asset changes that were positive, the greatest liability change in a percentage, that's actually highlighted. So in this one, we got a little bit more nitty gritty into the finances. We actually said, okay, what is the yield percentage? What's their earnings per share? How low is the PE ratio relative to their earnings? What's their asset numbers? What's their liability changes? And we actually had to go into, because of how close some of these and how good some of them looked, some of these all look pretty good. So just because, I mean, if I pick one stock here and we ignore the other ones, it doesn't mean that they're necessarily a bad buy at this point.
Right. And we could have picked any one of these 5 and probably would have been okay. But we want the best one out of them.
Yeah, at least as far as that we could tell. What we'll probably do in the next month, so month 6, we'll probably revisit a lot of these companies, and just because of how good they look this time. So that'll help us with the next time we make a stock pick. Some of the ones that like we didn't necessarily understand, RIO was one in particular. It's exactly what we did with that stuff.
Yeah. We've been looking at this for 2 months now.
2 months, yeah. And at that point, it was just, okay, what are they? What do they do? What's their business sector? What do they kind of work in? How much do they make their money on, and where do they make their money on it? And that's why they're still on this list. So the companies that didn't make the cut when we actually make our purchase, we'll talk about that shortly. Doesn't mean that they're a bad buy. In fact, I own stock in a couple of these companies that are on this list personally. In that regard, we go through, at least I went through and Brian went through quite a bit of the cash flow statements. So we're looking at, do we see a positive change in cash over 5 quarters? How does that compare to what happens over the course of 5 years? Because sometimes a business can do a whole lot of upheaval in 5 quarters that you don't see over a 5-year period. Right. We did the same thing with net income changes. Wanted to see, are they actually making money after they pay everything? We wanted to see their liabilities. Usually you want to see a decrease. So you want to see them lose. Some of the money that they owe people out there, they not lose it, but pay it off. I want to see them pay that off. The net assets, usually you want to see those stay the same, or if they go up, or if they go down, that's not always bad, but you should see liabilities drop more than the decrease of assets. And then if it doesn't affect the net income, then really you're not that concerned. This is the summary of that analysis. If I got into all of that, it'd be a giant nerd bomb, and I don't think people would pay attention for that. But in respect of what we came up with, this is the summary of that. So on this list, you have some pretty good companies that we can look at. And then from this, what I had asked Brian to do from these companies, the ones that looked good in particular, was to find out in the third pass. So you're going to see another spreadsheet here. This one is the second pass. The one that we're pulling up right now. Pulling it up right now is the third pass. So what I had done is I asked Brian to actually look at some of the companies that are on this list and see what is actually happening with these companies. How are they trading relative to the past 12 months? What is some of the news that's happening in there? The one that the CIO, that the viewers recommended, that one had some purchase buybacks. There was some things going on with assets that didn't look real good to us, that you didn't see that when you looked at the first and second pass. So this third pass gets a little bit beyond the balance sheet and actually starts looking at what's really happening with these companies.
Right.
You know, we have to look into the news, we have to look into the earnings statements and the earnings reports from the CEO or the board of directors. We have to look at, I'm going to say it again, the second time, the ticker symbols, see how they're doing over the past year. Are they trading really high compared to what they were last year? It's a similar thing that we talked about in a past video about price to earnings ratio and trailing PE. It's also why when you look at earnings per share, it's a good idea to see what the earnings per share is doing over 12 months.
Right.
We're doing that in this third pass. So we're actually looking at the business.
And we talked a little bit about diluted earnings per share, which this company was doing, and the buybacks, which was changing their outstanding shares to mess with the EPS numbers to make them look better.
And that does tend to have upwards pressure on the price of the stock, but we're not, that's good if it's permanent.
Right. This is a short-term.
It's a short-term thing. But we're not really in it for that yet. Right now we're in it just to maintain our capital, maintain our principal balance, and then also get some income going. Right. So,
and I think the short-term goal, the first goal that I think I have, and I think you also have, is to have our dividends equal our income. So our $400 a month, if we could get our dividends to $400 a month, so we're using that to buy the stocks. Mm-hmm. And now we've got just revenue coming in to buy more stocks.
Yes, and it's like watching a snowball roll down a hill. It starts out, you got to push it and compact it, and it doesn't feel like it's doing anything, and eventually it starts rolling, and eventually if it's on a hill, it's going to start rolling away from you. We're still at the point in this particular portfolio where it's not rolling away from you. You still got to work it.
Right. And we're still putting money in to purchase the stocks from our...
Yep. So if you're following along, you're doing the same thing, hey, that's great, but you're doing the same thing. You have to feed the beast a bit. So on that note, the beast did feed us back a little bit, gave us a little bit. We got a dividend check, 2 of them actually, and they're somewhere on the screen. Thank you, Brian, for editing these videos.
You're welcome.
So we did get our dividend checks. We did not take those into account for the purchase of this stock. We'll do that next time, but we're just going to take the dividends we're getting and we're just going to reinvest them into our picks for the next time. So that should help accelerate things. But again, if you're looking at this third pass, a lot of the news articles and stuff will kind of help you determine what the company is going to do. Because again, when you're looking at just the financial metrics, the only thing you're seeing is what happened in the past, not what they're doing tomorrow. You're seeing what they did yesterday.
And as we know, past performance does not necessarily indicate future gains.
That's correct. So it's important to kind of understand the business unit that you're in and what they're going to be doing, or maybe even what the political landscape is doing to how that affects their earnings.
And that's where the news comes in, and the different sites out there that you can get information on them.
And if you look at the spreadsheet, and if you're actually doing the analysis, when you go from your second pass to your third pass, it's really hard to see, wow, these all look really good. Which one should I buy? Until you actually look at what the business is doing.
Right.
That clarified a few things for us, and it actually helped us pick out the stock that we wanted.
And if you really want a nerd bomb, go on to their earnings calls, and they'll tell you exactly what they're doing in those stock earnings calls.
Usually in a really positive fashion, not like that.
It's great.
Yeah, it's going great. We're losing money, but it's going to be good.
Yeah.
It's normally they're very good about keeping it very succinct, but it does talk about, we bought this unit, we divested from this business venture, we hired these people, we're having problems. Like AT&T was a month ago, they said we're having problems collecting payments. That showed up in an earnings call.
Yeah. And at the very least, that gives you leads to what to research next.
Yep. So all of these companies on pass 2, when we get to month 6, they're going to show up in month 6 just because, hey, they made the first pass, they look good, they pay a pretty healthy dividend, and from the first blush or first glance, they look pretty healthy.
Yeah.
With that said, that's how we kind of get through the first set of analyzing stocks. Now this is going to change as time goes on because the portfolio is going to flesh itself out. I mean, we're going to have a little bit more diversification. We're going to have a little bit more freedom with picking the companies within a specific industry. That'll make it a little bit more powerful than it currently is when we buy a stock. But that gets us to this point, and then we make our purchase from there, which we will cover in the next one, the next video. We're going to actually tell people. We're not gonna tell them this time? We should tell them?
I thought we were telling them this time.
No, next time.
The next time?
Next time.
You're gonna have to wait. Man said next time.
They just click next.
I was gonna tell you.
Subscribe first, but then click next.
Well, here, I'll put it up here. And you can just go to it.
Yeah, that's good. Happy investing.